Hi everyone, my name is Carly Milder. I am a registered dietitian and I work at a bariatric clinic in Saline County. I absolutely love my job and I've been a dietitian for about a year and a half and it's been great so far. So I'm in this class basically just to further my education and finish up my master's. So I actually graduated with my undergrad degree at UCA. I absolutely loved UCA. There are really great teachers there and an awesome program for dietetics. I decided to do my internship at UAMS, and that was a really great program and gave me a lot of clinical experience. So that was great. A fun fact about me is I have two cats, one named Molly and one named George, and they're so much fun and I love seeing them play, and it's been fun to kind of see how they react to all the snow outside right now. And then I also have another business of my own. So I do balloons on the side with one of my really good friends. So just a few fun facts about me. And then just kind of diving in to our chapter, there was kind of a lot to unfold with the chapter that we read. So for one, I wanted to point out how much I loved the examples that were given with the chapter. I felt like the author was really able to break it down with really some realistic examples and things with like reality TV and all that good stuff. So I wanted to point that out. And then I have a few notes here, but with the chapter itself, there were a few things that I felt like I was pretty familiar with. So of course he discussed things like different variables, of course, independent and dependent variables, which I'm sure we're all pretty familiar with for the most part. One thing he did talk about at the beginning of the chapter was different theories and how theories can lead to data collection. I thought that was pretty informational, and I also liked how he talked about how the difference between like hypothesis and predictions and how that can really make a difference in your data collection. I really liked that. And then of course he also went into different variables like the categorical variables and nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio, which kind of brought me back to my stats class back when I was an undergrad a few years ago. So that was kind of a good refresher for me just to kind of get a refresher on that. And I also like the examples that he put with those different variables and kind of how to distinguish one from another, because that was kind of a difficult thing for me to remember. So it's just something good to be able to refresh on a little bit more. And then he kind of got into more things to do with research. So different forms of research like experimental research, correlational research, and the differences between those. One thing that really stood out to me was like with the correlational research, how the keyword for that was like snapshot. So it's just like a snapshot in time. And of course, with the experimental research, there should be a cause and effect to kind of show the difference between those two. And then he kind of got into more statistical topics after that. So this was kind of, the things before that was more of like a refresher for me. But then once he got into the more stats side of things, it got to be more new information for me. So first starting out with like interquartile range. So just kind of how to calculate that and how to distinguish the different quartiles. Of course, we brought up mean, median, mode, and range. That was something we learned back in elementary school. So it's kind of cool that, we're still using it all throughout, our different levels of education. So that still comes into play when it comes to stats. So I got to learn more about that. And then lastly, I just wanted to touch on a little bit with standard deviation and kind of how to distinguish the different points of that and how to distinguish if something is a small standard deviation, which the small standard deviation just means the points are closer to the actual mean, and the larger standard deviation, the points are more distant from the mean. So a lot of this stuff I expect will go into more detail as we go on with the chapters, but there are a lot of new terms through this chapter, a lot of good refreshers for me, and just things that I thought I definitely need to refresh more on a little bit better, and I hope that I'm able to learn more about these things as the chapters go on and as we go on through this class. Last thing I wanted to mention was I liked how he, at the very end of the chapter, he discussed how to report data and how we're supposed to use the APA formatting. I feel like that'll be a great page to refer back to, especially when we go through and write papers or doing our own statistical data. So that was kind of my long-winded description of chapter 1, but I thought it was very informational, and I'm excited to get more knowledge on all these topics. So a few questions that I have for you all. Number 1, what's something that stood out to you about this chapter, or what do you feel like was your big takeaway point? And then a fun question for all of you Arkansans that live in Arkansas. It's Sunday right now, so it's snowing outside. So what is the probability that you actually thought it was going to snow today? So just a few questions to kind of get you thinking. And I'd love to hear what everyone is excited about when it comes to stats. Okay, thank you.